Welcome back to the OC story, and this is the finale, but it's not where the tale ends. The events that take place right at the end of this piece of the story is the idea I had, maybe 20 episodes ago now, for how I wanted it to end. I had no idea and have since improvised my way with you guys' help all the way through the rest of the story, but I knew where it was going, and I knew that this was where I wanted to end it. However, since then, more ideas have come to me, and while this is a natural end and what I was originally planning, it also is a sort of opening to another part of the story. So, to keep you invested for that, I am writing it down. So, hopefully, that will intrigue you to read the book once I finish writing it, and I will try to record it as an audiobook as well. With all that being said, though, this is an ending that is perfectly acceptable if you never read the book, or you like this ending, or you preferred the ending of last time where it ended happily. Hint, hint, if you don't like sad endings, then maybe this isn't the one for you, and I will neither confirm nor deny how the book will end, and you guys know me, so, well, you know me, but this ending is going to be the sadder one. However, it is the first canonical ending I had in my head for how I wanted it to go. Alright, enough of that. The book is incoming, the audiobook, etc. But for now, here is the final part, for now, of the OC story. It doesn't take long for the trio have found what they believe is the perfect place to live. They've left the forest, they walked for several miles, and eventually, on the outskirts of a town, they see it. It's an old, very dilapidated farmhouse. No one has clearly lived there for decades. It's practically run down, the roof falling off, the walls are still in place, the door just about. Most of the windows are smashed. It will need so much work. And therefore, it will be cheap. And it turns out, as they go into the town, Darrow hanging back on the outskirts to wait for them as well, as he puts it, I ain't exactly going to be hard to spot, am I? The other two go in, though, and they speak to the people in the town, and they find out that the house was long deserted and has been left as a wreck. When they speak to the people who run the town, they are invited to take the house, if they're willing to put all their time and effort into rebuilding it, and as Iri and Tinny tell them, they are going to join the community. Tinny is going to go to school, Erasmus is going to join the bakery if he can, and then sell goods. Darrow, they tell them, is a skilled swordsman who is going to start crafting weapons. The town welcomes them with open arms. It's a small town, but busy enough. Plenty of people. They say they get lots of passing trade, and they're always interested in people bringing more skills to their little place. So they are told, absolutely, have the house, build it back up however you wish, and good luck to you. And so the three of them move into the dilapidated farmhouse. It takes months, years really, to get the whole place rebuilt properly. But Erasmus finds work in the town. He joins the bakery, becomes an apprentice, an assistant, and ends up learning everything he possibly could. This gets them some money. Tinny takes on odd jobs here and there, and Darrow takes on work that he can do from a safe distance. They plant a garden out the back full of vegetables and fruit and flowers. They rebuild the roof, they get glass and fix the windows, and eventually they have a little house. It has 2 bedrooms, one on either side of the top floor, a little bathroom with a steel bath. It has a kitchen which looks out onto the back garden, and the little area that Darrow is slowly building into his forge, and a tiny sitting room which can only just fit chairs for all of them. The living room, the staircase, and Tinny's room are all slowly filling full of books, and she is bringing home plenty of work from school as well. And she's thriving too. She's incredibly clever, incredibly bright, and incredibly funny. She soon has plenty of friends. They all help Darrow to build the forge in their back garden, putting a little roof over it to shelter him from the rain. And after studying many books and examining various weapons, he starts to dabble. It takes a while to get the hang of it, but eventually he's ridiculously good. The thing is that he knows intimately exactly what you want from a weapon. He starts crafting ones that would be easy to sneak and hide with, ones that would fit just under and out of sight, ones that are flashy and showy, ones that have perfect balance, ones that are so fine they're almost invisible. And gradually, they start to sell them. They go to different markets, and the idea is floated that maybe they should dip their toes back into the criminal underbelly as well. They build Darrow a sort of rucksack that he can hide his wings in, as long as he never takes the thing off. And, eventually, they decide to risk it. The three of them then journey to the nearest black market, Darrow completely hiding his face and his hair. But by then, no one seems to be looking for him or even remember him at all. Erasmus and Tinny, the missing prince and princess, are long forgotten. It has been 5 long years at this point. The country has long since moved on. And the criminal underbelly laps up the weapons. Tinny insists that they need to give them a name, something like Angel Blades, made from the holy, but Darrow laughs her down. Soon, the weapons have all been sold, every single one that they brought with them that day. As they pack up the stall and look around, they realise that they're onto something. And they keep returning to the black market, and soon the rumours and whispers and gossip is spreading like wildfire of this new sword craftsman who can make you a blade, hide you a blade, make you anything you could possibly want. And Darrow does. And business is completely booming. Soon they have not just the forge in the back garden, but a full-on bakery in their kitchen as well. Erasmus is selling bits and pieces, experimenting, making cakes and icing, and at one point, the highlight of his year is he's asked to make a wedding cake for the town mayor's daughter. Flashes of memory of the past, of the present, of the future keep swirling through Darrow's mind. But gradually, as the months turn to years, he gets so much better at just keeping them at bay. He can glance through them and look through them at will, and they do rise unbidden out of the fathoms of his mind, but he is finding it so much easier that they don't bother him anymore. However, at some point, he has to force himself not to look ahead, searching for the end of Erasmus's life. He doesn't want to know, although he does. He wants to know that the fortune teller was wrong, that the mist in that lake was just an illusion or a trick. He wants to know that the shattered lifeline means nothing at all. But he never looks. It's hard. He can sense the memory there, right there, on the edge, the very tip of his tongue. But he never looks. Never once. Within a few short years, Tinny has finished school, and she's moving away into college dorm rooms. She writes to them every week. They visit her every month or so, and she comes home for every holiday. They're happy, ridiculously so, and it's so simple. It's not easy work, any of the things they do, but they love it. And it's just happening, almost happening around them without their needing to push or try. Life is just letting them be. And for a long time, it's perfect. Then one day, Erasmus is off in a neighbouring city, dropping off a delivery of pastries, and he's visited Tinny for lunch too. He's about to set off home in the evening, when he hears a voice singing to a crowd in a packed tavern garden. He looks over and sees a man with ashy red hair singing a funny song filled with innuendo as a woman plays on a lute beside him. He blinks. It's Cholly, the jester, and Methalia, Tinny's mother. He watches and watches until their set is done. Then he approaches. They're amazed and shocked to see him, and they all hurry off to a corner of the bar to talk. Eerie asks what they're doing. They say they left a few years after Tinny did. They decided not to come looking for her, trusting she was safe and well, and if the universe wanted them to meet again, then they would. And they firmly believed one day they would see their daughter again. Eerie invites them back to the farmhouse with him, says he'll ask Tinny if she wishes to see them. They agree, and Erasmus says to come tomorrow. The two go back to their performance in the tavern, and Eerie turns onto the main road and returns to the college. He finds Tinny in her room, and he tells her what had happened. He asks her if she wants to see them, says he's invited them to the farmhouse, but she does not have to be there if she doesn't wish to. She thinks, but in the end, while it's overwhelming, she decides she would like to see them. She comes home with Eerie that night so she can be with her uncles before Cholly and her mother arrive. And when they get home, they tell Darrow. Darrow and Eerie share a look then, and Tinny asks them what's wrong. They decide together, quietly, to say nothing is wrong. They have a suspicion but they want any information to come from Cholly and Methalia themselves, so they ask Tinny to be patient and promise to tell her everything the next day. The next day dawns with a bright, sunshiny sky, and Cholly and Methalia arrive. They all sit together in the garden, and through the talk, slowly, it all comes out. Methalia had been almost as young as Tinny was when she left, when she was sent far away from home and married off to Prince Syson. He wasn't cruel, she said, not at the start, but it wasn't love. And she had no family, no friends. She was in a strange land, in a strange palace, by herself, with her brand new husband. And then, she'd met someone, fallen into step with them, fallen into laughter and jollity with them, and slowly fallen into friendship, and then, almost without realising, fallen into love, real love, actual love, not pushed together by two families, fake love, but real, true love. Cholly squeezed her hand as she spoke, and she looked at him and said, "I don't think I would have gotten through any of it if it wasn't for Furnace." Darrow immediately looked to Erasmus. Erasmus immediately looked to Tinny. Tinny looked back at them both, blinked, and said, "What? You really think I didn't know?" "You knew he was your father?" "Oh no, not that bit." Tinny looked at Cholly then and leaned over to take his other hand. "I mean, he told me his real name ages ago when I was just a little kid." To Darrow and Erasmus, she added, "I knew who Furnace was as soon as Maximus said his name. I didn't care. And I didn't say anything because, well, how do you explain that? That I didn't care. I didn't want you to think bad of me. So I just left it. I did sort of guess that he was my father, though, but it took a while." Cholly takes up a bit of the story then. He explains that he chose the name Cholly because it would pass for something like Holly Jolly Jester, but actually it was a play on the word melancholy. And that's what he felt a lot of the time at that palace after he met Methalia. He'd arrived at roughly the same time as her. They were newbies together. He was in the acting troupe trying desperately to make the royals laugh. And she was just free and beautiful and funny. And he fell so deeply head over heels in love with her that he couldn't imagine feeling anything other than the love and the sadness ever again. The jester glanced at Erasmus then and lowered his gaze to the floor. "I'm sorry that I was desperate and out of my mind, and I am so sorry." Erasmus shook his head. "Don't be sorry. Truly. I worked that part out for myself." "Yeah, I knew you had." "Then know this too. You do not need to apologize. If you had succeeded, my soul would have understood. And you did not. And now things are the way they are. Truly, I should be thanking you. You gave me my life. A life I didn't think I ever wanted. A life I didn't think I could ever get. Truly, Furnace. Thank you for ordering the assassination on myself and my brothers and my father. Thank you." Darrow smiles quietly to himself and squeezes Eri's knee. Tinny asks about her brother, but Methalia and Furnace look sad at that point and explain that they tried in vain to get the boy to come with them, but he'd become a duplicate of his father. Syson would not have let him go, and the boy had no intention of coming with them. Methalia was desperately sad to go and leave him, but she could do nothing more for him. And he's now in exile with the rest of the royals. They've left the country and have no chance of coming back. She's glad they got out before then, but wishes she could have done something to change it. But her son was turning into his father. In a way, it's probably better that the two of them are together. Furnace and Leah are now travelling the world, singing songs, writing songs, performing, and just seeing as much as they can. They arrange to see Tinny more often, And eventually, over the years, they settle in the little town that Darrow and Erasmus are living near. All of them have dinner together at least 3 times a year. About halfway through Tinny's final year of college, she lets her uncles know that she is going to be bringing home a partner for the holidays, Jasp Cricket. Her 2 uncles are startled, delighted, and Darrow immediately begins to panic about their little girl growing up. But when Tinny arrives home with partner in hand, they realise there was nothing to worry about. Their name is Jasp Cricket. They are not so tall as Tinny, with sandy hair, very witty, always carrying a pile of books, round spectacles, and a determined expression. Always eager to talk, wanting to explore the world, to chart maps of far distant places, immediately respectful of Tinny's family, with none really of their own to speak of. Darrow takes Jasp for a fast ride in the sky and decides he approves when Jasp yelps but does not cover their eyes the entire time. Erasmus decides he approves when Jasp is excited to help him bake, but really, they both decide they approve when they see how Jasp looks at Tinny. And so another decade rolls by. Tinny gets married to Jasp and they move away to have adventures of their own. Darrow and Erasmus are still forging and baking, and they've nearly forgotten Erasmus's bargain in the dark, murky waters of that lake so many years ago. Sometimes Darrow soars flying high through the woodlands searching for that lake, but he's never found it. When Eerie caught a nasty flu, as his red hair was slowly getting speckled with grey, Darrow flew back to the forest once again searching for the lake, ready to beg, to lay down anything he could offer to take back that deal. But, again, he never found it. When Eerie got better, but the cough remained, he held his hand and helped him in the kitchen. When Eerie needed a cane to balance as he stood at the sink or walked their fields, Darrow walked beside him, flying them when Eerie got too tired. Steadily, Eerie's hands blackened, the vein crackling out from the broken lifeline on his palm and making their painful way up his skin. When Eerie began to mention aches in his knees, Darrow swallowed down every instinct to tear apart his private promises and peer into the future to see how long they had left. When Eerie could hardly move without feeling knives stabbing into his soul, Darrow cried silently, holding him as they tried to sleep. "Do not look, my love." The request came late or early in the night, lost somewhere after midnight. "I do not want you to count down our final moments. Please do not look." "I won't. I haven't," Darrow promised into Eerie's tears. The thing was, Erasmus cannot be saved. He never could be saved. The lifeline could not be repaired, like a terminal diagnosis. "Can you love me like this? Can you still love me knowing you cannot save me? Knowing there is no fight to win, no treasure to seek, no new page to turn? There is nothing anyone can do. Can you still bear to love me?" Darrow replied from the bottom of his heart, "I love you because I can do nothing else. I can't save you, can't do nothing. Nothing but love you." He glows all the time now. His hurt and his love and his fear shine out from him like a beacon. Eerie calls Darrow his starlight, his nightlight in the dark. Darrow takes out some of his emotion in the forge, while Eerie is sleeping or walking, sometimes sitting wrapped in blankets in a chair, sipping tea and watching Darrow work. He makes requests when he can find his voice. He asks Darrow to work shirtless or to bend over slowly. Darrow always smiles and obliges. Sometimes things feel like they will get better. The weapons Darrow creates in those years are sublime, unlike any other, carved from torment and love, exquisite. Erasmus tells him to price them extortionately, and they sell immediately. Some to assassins, some to other criminals. One Darrow gifts to Tinny, an intricately decorated axe, vast and perfectly balanced. She's delighted and immediately takes it to work on her next adventure with Jasp. It was not all screaming and fear. Erasmus was too stubborn for that. He walked even though it burned. He laughed though it tore his throat. He baked, stirred, cooked, and created delicacies. Though his skin blistered and stung, he sat in Darrow's arms as they flew, circling their home, sighing into the wind. More years went by, and he asked to visit their old forest home several times, and they always went. Tinny came with them whenever she was home. They explored the overgrown place, climbed the old ladders, watched birds nesting on the rope bridges. They returned to the clearing where Darrow had proposed many times as well. Eerie said it was the place his heart loved the most. When he caught Darrow crying, Eerie would say over and over, "I would choose this any time, over and over, for everything we have had, for this life. I would choose that, for you, for everything. I would choose this every time." His veins continued to blacken, and then one day he was torn apart inside, too hurt to cry out, too agonized to breathe properly. Tinny came at once, Jasp holding her hand, with Furnace and Leah, and they all said their goodbyes. They all sensed it was near. When they'd all spoken their piece, and they were all silent, Darrow picked Erasmus up and flew him far away to their clearing, their place under the starlight in the middle of that forest. And Erasmus died in all the pain of the world, but looking up at the stars with Darrow in his arms. The assassin didn't weep for Eerie yet. He stayed by his side until the dawn broke. Then he covered the man in a shroud of leaves and tore through the forest. He returned soon, carrying great chunks of rock he had torn from the base of a mountain, and now he set it down in the middle of their clearing, beautiful starlit place where they had been so happy. And he began to carve Erasmus a tomb. Time slipped away from him as he crafted it, beautiful and haunted. He found his hands carving Erasmus' likeness into the lid without even thinking. Then he was done. A marble tomb to keep Eerie safe. Only when he had laid the body down, kissed him one final time and closed the lid, did he catch a long, shivering breath. A blade was in his hand in moments, and he carved a cedar leaf into the stone. It was rough, fast work, as he tried to stop the sobs rising in his throat like acid. Then it was done. He sheathed the blade and dropped to his knees beside the tomb. Then Castellane cried. Hot rains of tears scattered down his cheeks, the world collapsing into his chest. Beating rang in his ears, stars shone in his eyes, and on he cried. Beautiful, dark eyes swam in 1,000 memories. Eerie. Long fingers laced with his own, warmth he would never feel again. Eerie. A soft smile lit up his mind for him alone, sweetness and joy and light, all ripped apart and torn away. How can you bear to love me when there is nothing you can do to save me? A choke rose up, rippling through him as he sobbed. I can do nothing but love you. He had done just that. Nothing at all, nothing but stand idly by as Eerie was taken from the world piece by piece, the brightest light in all creation, and he'd let it be extinguished. His cries fell and fell. None heard him but the mist, creeping around the outskirts of it all, watching, waiting. The celestial creature did not notice. I love you. Words. All they were now, just words. Each landed heavy on his lips, each stuttered into the air, each dropped with the tears. Eerie could not hear him. Eerie was gone. Gone and never coming back. Darrow's heart was missing a home as he knelt in the pit of despair and howled like a wounded animal. The veins throbbing under his skin pulsed gold, reaching, calling, begging for their haven, crying out to a place they could no longer find. Can't you do something? These words were for his father. Castellane could sense him, a tether pulled tight between them as he knew he was watched. Blue, streaked eyes begged the heavens up above. Save him! Change the ending! Fix this! Mend it all, please! Father? But no answer came. What's the point in watching everything if you never do nothing? If you just watch and let it all happen, you may as well not even be there! Those words were to more than just his father. He screamed his misery to the blackening skies as every star vanished into the deep pull of the dark. Even the moon abandoned him. There was no comfort to give, so none offered it. Love would not bring him back. Darrow screamed again and again. Every part of him shattered. Feathers fell as his nails dug into the dirt, and tears ran burning tracks down his face. It encompassed him, it anchored him, it hurt more than anything he'd ever known. He would stand in front of Emerald Flame 1,000,000 times over this. He would face Lumens and Maximus and their blades. He would trade anything, the worst of it all. Please, he begged, pleading into the vast forest. Please, I'll do anything. Anything. The mist seeped into the clearing. It brushed tender caresses across the tomb. It curled into pale hair. It spoke deep into Darrow's soul. Anything. Anything! He swore it. He pleaded it. He shivered and shook as he fell forward. Prostrate on his knees, face in the dirt, Darrow begged. Please, please give him back to me. What would you give to make it so? Anything. Whatever you want, just take it. Tear-stained eyes rose from the ground. Please, take anything from me. I just want my husband back. A chill ran through him. It circled once, coming to rest across his back. A great plume of mist sat there as a sheer cloak, folding slowly out around his drooped wings. Cold stabbed between the feathers, scooping up some that had fallen as the mist draped along his shoulders and met his eyes. Your husband lies before you. Do you not see him? Please, did you not build his tomb with your own hands? Bring him back. Have you forgotten him already? I can never forget Iri. Then remember him. Memories ain't enough. I want to hear his voice, feel his touch, to bring him joy. Remember him. Please, I'll do anything. Shed your tears. Swirls of grey mist wafted up to Darrow's eyes. Cry for your fallen, Castellane. Cry and remember. He can't be gone. Hands clutched at the tomb he could barely see through the fog. Iri, you can't be gone. Please, please, I'll do anything. Weep, Castellane. Please. The mist engulfed him. Cold span knots through his guts, knotted between every feather, caked his skin. But it sat silent as the grave Darrow clung to. No more words came. And Darrow cried. And Darrow remembered Iri. Time poured like sand through his fingers as he kept on, doggedly clasping it every moment, every flash and flicker racing across his mind, binding him to the present. Darrow sank into his loss as he gazed into those beautiful dark eyes over and over and over again. In a carriage, when a hit had gone so wonderfully wrong. In the rain, all smiles and sweet treats and kisses bathed in lightning. In tavern bedrooms, in secluded spots surrounded by flowers, in every possible moment and every ounce of time they had shared. Darrow remembered Iri. He remembered and he cried because he could do nothing else. I can do nothing else. Nothing but love you. Castellane wept as time whirled on and on. A new dawn broke, but he never saw it. The same dawn turned to dusk and sank behind the treetops. Still, Castellane wept for his beloved. He wept for every moment they had known each other. He wept beneath skies that faded and grew blank, shrouded in grey mist. Days turned over into weeks, months became years. Every memory played before him. Their lives, their laughter, their love. Years rolled into decades. Still, the Celestial wept at the tomb side. 57 years passed in that forest where time did as it pleased, and the clearing became a lake, a vast dark expanse of shed tears surrounding the tomb nestled at the bottom where Iri lay. Feathers hung and drifted where they fell in the water. They mingled with the tears, swept and caught up by strands of the mist. It took them and reforged them. Golds and silvers dulled into the palest white, stripped of sunlight in the gloom. The feathers cascaded and twisted. They moved to their own current and slowly began to grow. They shimmered, they crawled, they cried out in sorrow, echoes of the one who had shed them as he had shed the tears they bathed in. The mist breathed life into them and taught them to dance. And so each fallen feather became a ghost. They dance in the still waters. They guard it from any who would draw near. Born of his grief, they mourn too. What was once Darrow sank with the tomb. He hung suspended in the darkness, cocooned in wings, surrounded by nothing but mourning memories. The Celestial remained, guardian and sentinel in the black. And that is where the OC story ends, for now. The book, I'm going to say carries on a little bit, but that's not quite what happens in the book. But to feed your, hopefully, intrigue into getting this book when it finally happens, it, for lack of a better word, carries on just a little bit. This was where I imagined the story ending from pretty much the episode where I first brought them to the lake. I had a small niggling of an idea, and yep, I am terribly sorry. This has been the ending I've had in my head ever since. All the other things that happened that you guys voted on, obviously the story itself, Tinny appearing, she was not a character I imagined at all, so everything else I had no idea, but this was how I knew I wanted to end it. However, please read the book, because I promise there is more incoming. I am still writing it, but for now, this is the end of the OC story. Let me know your thoughts. I'm scared to hear them in the comments down below. I do, however, want to keep telling OC stories, so I will probably start off again with getting you guys to help me vote and pick a character. I might go live on a TikTok or a Twitch or something like that and get you guys to help me make a character, and then I will tell short form stories. They might go for 1 to 2 to 3 episodes a time, and there are some other fun bits and pieces I want to do with some storytelling here as well, because I don't want to finish doing the Friday stories, so bear with me while I sort out that one, and thank you very much for being engaged with this story. As I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and yep, I will see you very soon for something else. All right, I love you all very, very much. Thank you for engaging. Don't forget to hydrate. Bye-bye.